Yes. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kenny Lamons here with Medicare Millennials. So I did a video with these two gentlemen here recently, and I got a ton of good feedback from it. I feel like it really brought a lot of good value because of the unique perspective that these guys bring. So today we're going to do a value jumping into what's on every agent's mind, which is this upcoming AEP season. We may be the most changes from an agent perspective that we've seen in years and years. So we really have to uniquely position ourselves to be successful this year, more so than we have in the past. So we're going to get really practical, how to prepare for AEP, what these guys suggest you do during AEP to be successful, and maybe touch even a little bit on how to retain the people that you sell during AEP. So we've got Jake, we've got JB. They're both with ProSurance. They operate out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but they do recruit and train agents and agencies nationwide. And I've kind of pointed this out, but both of them have been in the business for a long time. I mean, collectively between the two, they've got decades of experience. And what I love the very most, and which is why this video is going to be a lot of JB talking, is that he's got experience both on the brokerage side, but also on the carrier side. So he offers that unique perspective that all of us agents always want, the insider knowledge. I'm glad I have a relationship with JB because I can get some of that from him. So anyway, do y'all want to say hello, Jake, JB, and what are you looking to share in this video? Just, what are you looking to get from this conversation?
Hey, Kenny, thank you. We're back. That's all I got to say about that, right? JB Burnett, good to be with you, Kenny, man. I enjoyed our last episode and had a ton of people reach out, so it's fantastic to be back with the group. So thanks for having us back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kenny. Hopefully we can give some good insight for a lot of these agents out here. Everyone's kind of looking for the answers. Sometimes an inside scoop of what they need to be doing right now, and they're trying to gain that focus because they hear so much out on the social media platforms, et cetera, that we want to kind of give them some direction. So hopefully we can do that today.
Yeah. So one of the number one questions I get from agents that reach out, that watch these videos is, hey, I'm getting licensed, or I'm already licensed. What FMO should I go with? So all I'll share with anybody watching this video is these guys recruit agents and agencies. They've been in the business a long time. So if you find value in what they're saying and you believe you kind of align with what the way that they operate, their information is going to be in the description below. So you need to, if nothing else, add these guys to the short list of who you're looking at working with, because there's no time ever that it's more important to find the right upline partner than now, with all these changes CMS is kicking down to us. So their information will be in the description below. Super simple for you to reach out to them. And you guys know where to find me. Go to MedicareMillennials.com, hit my contact button, and you can reach out to me if needed. So, all right, let's jump into it. AEP. It's the summer months. OEP ended a couple months ago. So we spent, and then some of us work year round if we're focused on T65s or SEPs like LIS. Some of us are taking a bit of a break right now. Either way, I would argue this is the quietest time of year for most Medicare agents. Just that kind of maybe May, June, July is the only time of year where even if you're still writing business, it feels quiet. You're not getting as many retention calls. Everybody's wore out from being bombarded since the last AEP. By everybody, I mean your clients, right? They don't want to switch anymore. And so this is a time to prepare your business for a successful AEP. Either one of you can jump in, just simple, before we even get to marketing and what in the meat and potatoes, like what are some key things that successful agents do leading up to AEP to be prepared?
Yeah, so I'll jump in here, Jay, because you hit it right on the head. This is the quiet time for the agent. This is not the quiet time for the carriers. Being with United for the last 10 years, these next 3 months are the absolute busiest months of the year. And that seems kind of strange to hear because you think AEP is like the crazy, crazy time. And it really is not. It's probably the second most busiest time because everything's baked at that point. You just kind of roll through and whatever happens, happens. Not a lot of changes you can make in the moment. these are the times where the changes and all the strategy goes into play. So, carriers are getting ready to unload their retail schedules and the retail locations. And so you as an agent need to be kind of looking at that. Don't feel like that you've been in the business for too long, that retail is not a viable option for you. If you're new to the industry, don't think that retail is a scary type of situation, that you're going to be in front of too many people and you're not going to have all the answers. I think retail is a good mixture for all of those type of agents, because it'll get you in front of people. It'll give you some at-bats, some opportunities that otherwise you're not going to get doing nothing. And for those heavy hitters, don't want to take you out of the field necessarily and put you in a retail operation more than we have to, but putting you in certain situations on certain times will also increase your overall production. And so you kind of look at those and kind of figure out what that looks like for you. This year, more so than ever, I will tell you, retail is going to be a huge, huge component of agent success, because with benefits rolling back, multiple carriers, that everyone has said it, they're going to be pulling benefits back. There's going to be a lot of negative ANOCs, annual notice of change. And when there's negative benefits that are in the annual notice of change, those come up at the front. And so when consumers see those, and especially
when will they see those roughly?
They'll see those in September.
Okay.
Yeah, all carriers get those out by 1st of September to the middle of September. When they see those negative benefits, they have not seen those in years. And so immediately they're going to be like, oh goodness, we've got to shop. We've been with the same plan for 5 years. We've been happy, but all of a sudden what we have enjoyed in dental or whatever is not what it has been. And so the best place to be is in front of consumers, community meetings, retail, sitting on a phone or sitting behind a desk or expecting the phone to ring is not going to be a viable situation. The phone will ring, don't get me wrong, but those type of situations are going to be valuable for you because there's going to be a lot of shopping. I don't know necessarily what the plans are going to stack up. I don't know if United is going to take such a back step that you'll see other carriers do. I know Humana has mentioned it on their earnings call that they're going to be reducing benefits. They're going to be pulling back what we call SARs, service area reductions. They're going to pull plans back in certain areas. So to what level and to what degree, right? Certain areas of the United States, Humana is not going to touch. I think DFW is one of those. Huge growth market for them. They're in it to win it there, but they're going to see some other markets where they're not as competitive. They haven't had as much success, and they may pull back there. So a lot of opportunities there. Just like in DFW right now, there's a little regional player called Care. They're not rebidding for 2025, so they're going out of business. They've got approximately about 3,800 members. So a lot of opportunities there for somebody to write that business. But you got to be visible, right? And so carriers right now, that's a strategy that they're implementing. First thing out is going to be retail. The next thing is going to be inputting community meetings and activities for AEP into their marketing database where they can actually go select marketing. We'll talk about a little bit how that looks like here in just a little bit. But this is the most active time you need to be as an agent planning for AEP right now.
So I think one of the key things there is this annual notice of changes that goes out every year. And even though benefits haven't always been retracted, they've normally been either the same or getting better. This is something agents need to learn to use as a tool of retention and referrals, because what will happen sometimes is an annual notice of change will come out and tell them that a doctor's not in network anymore or that a drug isn't covered anymore. And the client will panic, and but that's an opportunity for you to be the hero, put their mind at ease, kind of navigate that for them in September. So you're already talking to this is your excuse to be in front of your current customers in September. And it's your excuse to be out in the public for people that don't, clients that don't have an agent that are dealing with this in September. So before the clock even starts, before anybody can submit an application, you have the opportunity, because you know they've got their annual notice of changes, to retain your current clients and find new business for you to prepare to visit with them during AEP, if that makes sense. So if you can understand and articulate what an annual notice of change is, any senior you meet on Medicare out at these, in retail, going on and being out in the community, you can open the conversation simply by saying, hey, Jake, have you got your annual notice of change from Humana yet? Do you understand what that means, what that looks like? Hey, let's go ahead and set an appointment so that, you know, to help you look over that, right? It's like a conversation starter, I think. So that's something like a pro Medicare agent understands these notice of changes and plays them to their advantage. JB?
Yeah, let me just throw something out there real quick, Sir Jake. This is important to know. We haven't done this in years when I was at United, but this may be the year that this is a very, very viable strategy for you. So you can start having member meetings in September to go over ANOCs. You're not going over benefits for the upcoming year, but you can go over their current ANOC by saying, okay, well, you're getting in a reduction in dental here. You know, your copay is going to go up here. And so you can go with your current book of business, you can proactively go over their annual notice of change with them. And so you can strategize and say, okay, you know, this set of members that I have, they're gonna be the ones that I need to meet with in October, and we need to look at, you know, plan changes. This group over here, they're not necessarily too upset with their annual notice of changes, so I'm going to put them to the side, and if there's an issue comes up, then they'll call me. So that kind of strategy, you know, right before AEP with that, you know, power of that annual notice of change. By the way, you can download those out of your toolkit, out of your online sales material platforms with your carriers, and you can be having those meetings prior to AEP. I think it's super valuable to have those. Super
big. Yeah, that gets you ahead of the curve for sure. Jake, were you going to throw something in there?
No, I agree with JB. Now that you have so many changes going on this year, if I'm an agent, don't be a one-trick pony. Know the competition. You know, there's a lot of agents out there that only sell Humana, or they can only sell United Healthcare. They might be captive to those. Those guys are in a losing situation because they can't offer all the products. I would at least know your top 4 in your area and know those benefits inside and out, because one little benefit they're not happy with their current ANOC, you might have a solution for them with somebody else. So this is the year to really understand every single benefit, from a specialist copay, hospital copay, skilled nursing facility copays, max out of pockets. You got to be the pro.
I love that. So perfect segue, Jake, into AHIP and carrier certification. So let me speak on that from my perspective real briefly. A lot of people complain about AHIP. I did too, because I wasn't when I was new, it was far more confusing. And I wasn't, to be quite honest, I was like, is this even worth it? Is this whole Medicare Advantage crap? I have to do this every year, right? You kind of have that mindset at first.
Yeah.
I have a different perspective. So if you're a newer agent, hear me out. AHIP lays the foundation to your understanding of the Medicare landscape. Now, does it teach you which plan is best? No, it doesn't do any of that. Does it teach you how to necessarily get in front of clients? No. But what it teaches you is fundamentally how the program works, the differences between HMO and PPO, the differences in special enrollment periods and different election periods, the basic marketing rules, the do's and don'ts. So you don't always have to trust a third party. If you take your time on your AHIP every year, it will teach you those things about when do I have to get a scope of appointment, right? Like it's going to teach you all of those things as an agent, so that you're not constantly looking over your shoulder trying to figure out these rules. It's going to lay that foundation for you. So AHIP lays that foundation. Take your time. spend 8 or 10 hours going through the modules and really learning it, in my opinion. But then it's going to lead you to carrier certifications. Jake was just saying now more than ever is important for you to know the top 3, 4, 5 carriers in your area, know the copays. If you take your time on your carrier certifications and you study the plans of each of these major carriers and you memorize or at least get cheat sheets to where you really understand the landscape of each plan, you're miles ahead of other agents that are just, oh, you should get this plan because it blah blah blah, and they don't even know the hospital that this plan didn't cut back on their hospital copay or whatever, right? Like you're miles ahead of people. So any tips on AHIP and carrier certification, my tip is don't rush through it. If you're a professional, you want to be successful at this business, they're a resource for you. Take your time and learn from the certifications and from the AHIP. What about you guys? You know, we're walking into AEP.
Let me give a carrier perspective here, because that's obviously what I like to do here. So July, the deadline changes every year. Me not being employed by United anymore, I can't give you the deadline, but I'll give you what is probably going to be. So if you look at the month of July, typically they want all the meetings in by the 25th. They're probably going to come back and tell you they want the meetings in by the 18th or the 11th of July, which gives them opportunity to load the sales support team to load all those meetings in by the 25th. The 25th is the actual deadline. It doesn't matter if I'm employed there or not. That's always been the deadline. It's just depending on the sales team, what they set the deadline per market. They'll get those deadlines out to you, but let's just say it's going to be probably the 18th or the 11th.
So just for clarification, this is the deadline to register your events for AEP.
Correct. Yeah. To get your meetings, retail, whatever it is, into the carrier to be considered for national marketing. So this kind of leads up to what you're talking about, AHIP and certification, like when and how, what. So for that, if you've got to get your meetings in and they've got to be loaded with United by the 25th of July, that's when you need to have your certification done. If you're going to do AHIP, which you don't have to do that to do your certifications with United, then you're going to need to have your AHIP and your certifications all completed before the 25th. Otherwise, your meetings potentially won't be loaded. There is some internal things that they can do that some sales teams will do, some will not. So it's just best that you have it all done by the 25th.
July 25th.
July 25th. Now, that being said, if again, you don't want to do AHIP that early, because some other carriers don't do that type of marketing. They're not as aggressive as that. We know United's very aggressive with what they do. Every deadline is sooner than everybody else. Then, you can't just go in and do United certifications without doing AHIP but you have to have that done. That's very, very important. So like number one on your list, if you're going to do marketing events in AEP, whether it's retail, whether it's sales meetings, whatever it might be, get your certifications done before the 25th of July.
Love that. That's early and often, guys. Like that is what sets the good agents apart. They're not waiting until October 8th saying, oh yeah, I got to go recertify. Don't you guys know that you don't get your renewals if you don't recertify with that carrier? Like, how could you possibly wait that long? Forget preparing to sell new policies. You're going to risk everything you've done in the past. Take what JB said and be the first one done. Be done with your certifications and your studying by July 25th. I love that. Jake?
Well, I want to touch on something else. As far as if you're going to do meetings, let's say you want to do Humana meetings, let's say you want to do Aetna meetings, let's say you want to do United meetings, anybody can file meetings, right? You need to go to these carriers and find out what kind of marketing they're actually going to do for these meetings. Historically speaking, you know, United Healthcare, we used to have meetings and you'd have 30 people in a golden corral and you're tickled to death, right? But then over the years, kind of they would pick and choose which meetings they wanted to market. So what I would do if I'm an agent and I'm preparing for AEP this year, I'm going to pick which company, I'm going to interview that company and say, what are you doing for marketing for these meetings? I know CMS is changing everything. And I know you can't guarantee me stuff, but just give me an idea. And then I would pick who I'm going to market. Obviously, you can't know what the benefits are yet, right? But you're picking out of those top four. I would also recommend going to your upline, even though things could change with marketing. Ask them what they're going to do.
Can you hold that thought just for clarity? When you say you kind of go interview the main carriers, see what their plans are, and commit, you're not talking about only selling that carrier. You're saying committing to doing their marketing events.
100%. Because I've heard of certain agents come back to me and say, hey, I set up 14 events and I only had 10 people show up. I wasted my time. I don't want anybody on this watching this video today to do that. Just set up all these meetings and, you know, put spaghetti against the wall, hope it sticks. We need heads in the seats, right? And obviously with all the turmoil this year, hopefully there is more heads in the seats, but we also need a marketing plan. If what JB said earlier, they have national marketing, some of the carriers do, but then they have local area marketing. What are we going to do to market these events so we can get those 10 to 15 or more people in those seats? Okay. That's something you need to discuss with these folks pretty quick here.
So carrier rep first, but then you were saying then go to your upline. And what would that look like?
Correct. So a lot of my guys, they come to us depending on what happens with all the CMS changes. I know it's very volatile right now, but historically what we would do is we have a fund put together for these meetings. So we go through, we look at all the meetings, figure out what we can put towards everybody's meetings in certain areas and see how we can help. So it's kind of a two-prong approach. You got the carriers, you got, you know, your FMO, and then also some of my agents, once they're successful down the road, they got, you know, bigger renewal books, they have extra marketing funds of their own. They may want to look at put some of their own monies in. A lot of my agents also do educational meetings. Some people wonder, should I do educational meetings during AEP or should I stop and just do sales meetings? Everyone's kind of got a different idea of which is better. For me, I just kept my educational going throughout the year. Why? Because I didn't want to stop my pipeline for after AEP, because a lot of those people that are turning 65 in February, they're coming to my meeting in November, right? Early on. So I kind of kept that going. Everyone's got a different approach to that. And then I stacked my meetings on top of that for the carriers. So I'm busy. It's 4 to 5 meetings a week above and beyond other things I was doing. So that was what I did. And you can't, I'd always back into it. And I say a good agent's going to write 100 applications for AEP for 1-1. That could be an agent 1-1. That could be an actual AEP, whatever the election period is. But I want 100 1-1 apps. And usually I always got there plus a lot more by doing those things and setting my schedule up that way.
Love that. Yeah. I'm more of an educational informal guy. That's because I didn't have good teammates like you guys to show me how to you told me I had to register something. I'm running away. If I have to register something, like, I don't know what you're talking about, I guess I'm not doing it. Now I'm not saying that you should be like that, right? Like, I see success. Of course, I've had success doing what I've done. I've done leads, local marketing, educational events, informal events, and I've had success. But some of the most successful agents I know primarily focus on registered sales events and formal events. So don't misunderstand me, people who are watching. Just, you got to have the right upline that knows how to coach you through that, right? And if you're going to do those events.
And JB touched on something earlier too, Kenny. This is a year some of my guys don't like doing retail. They don't like going to a Walmart. They don't want to go to a local food market. But I tell those guys, you're missing the boat, because this is a year when everybody's going to be shopping. So you might want to add some retail in there. I have agents that don't do any of these sales events or educational at all. They just do retail every day, just 2 to 3 or 6 to 8 events a week, nonstop. And they just build that pipeline right now. And then AEP, it just takes off for them.
We need to talk about some retail in my area, but we'll do that off air. JB, this video's pushing 25 minutes, which is okay. If you don't mind, anything else you want to throw in is fine too, but will you talk about stacking events? You've kind of talked to me about this. Stacking events, like, what's the value in that for an agent? How do they go about doing that to just be the most productive? And
So here's the inside baseball when it relates to events and how they're marketed. So each director in every market is the one that actually selects the events that are marketed. That was my job. Now, you can't play favorites in this. Now, I will tell you, there is a little bit of a situation where you say, okay, these events are for this agent. This agent is one of my top producers. That's probably an event you want to try to figure out how to select, right? Just because you know the agent is going to produce for that meeting, right? But that's not always likely, because the real key to what directors are looking at is, in most markets, they'll get a full page ad in a newspaper, and it comes with 16 inserts. And so within the system, it's called Periscope. May get in trouble for saying that out loud, but whatever. It's called Periscope. And so within Periscope, that's the actual marketing, third-party marketing company that does the extractions of the meetings, send those to the local newspaper, Fort Worth, Star Telegram, Dallas Morning News. They actually send those over, and then they're printed, and then they're in the newspapers for AEP. So what we look for is how we can fill up a 16-page newspaper every week that is consistent for a full month. So if you're that agent that says, you know what, I'm going to do sales meetings this AEP. I'm going to do one meeting every week, and I'm going to do one meeting here at Golden Corral this week. I'm going to do another meeting next week at Sawgrass. I'm going to do another meeting next week at Mexican Inn. Whatever. That's the wrong approach. You more than likely will not get any of your meetings selected for advertising, because you cannot just select one meeting. It doesn't make sense from a newspaper selection. So what we look for is the agent that does 2 meetings this week, one on Tuesday, one on Thursday, both at 11 o'clock. Next week, same thing, Tuesday, Thursday, next week, Tuesday, Thursday, next week, Tuesday, Thursday. So what we can do for a monthly insert is we can select all those meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it's just one,
Push it out there.
one plug.
Yep.
And so when you look at that, think about that. Consistency with your meetings is going to be key for getting advertisement. That will pull to the top of the list of a director, and they will be more than likely to select your meetings because of the consistency that you operate within. The single one-offs, good luck.
So in other words, you can't dip your toe in this and say, well, this is convenient for me, and expect to get the support and the visibility. So you're saying, like, dedicate more time and more consistency so that you have a higher chance of being supported to get your events filled.
Yeah, and that consistency starts right now. And that's the thing is, I just gave you the deadline, July 25th. That's when all of your events need to be in. That's when all of your research, all your strategies have to be baked. So you have to know, like, where you're going to be starting in October by the end of July. So you need to go find your restaurants. You need to go find your venues. You need to find that now. Not only do you need to find it now, you need to be holding activities there now. John Smith, Senior John Smith, that lives in your town, needs to be seeing your flyer for Spring Creek Barbecue now, because consistency buys trust. And trust is what you want to have as an agent. Seniors that trust you will be your client for life. People that show up October 1st doesn't show a senior consistency at all. In this day and time, with phone calls and the transactions that are going on over the phone and all this conniving stuff that's happening, they want consistency. They want somebody that they can trust, that can look in the eye and know that they're not just there for 8 weeks out of the year. They're there for 6 to 8 months out of the year, and they're there every year.
I love that.
What's a good example of that, Kenny? What you do over in the local Granbury area. Everybody knows you as a personal friend now, not just a agent, which is, you can't even build that kind of trust. That's hard to do.
Well, here's another thing that people don't realize. When you go this route, you do sales meetings, you do educational meetings, you go for a grassroots presence in your area. It doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
You've got to find what works for you and then do that consistently over a period of time. So just like JB was saying, early and often and consistent, That applies to everything. The only exception to that is if all you do is buy leads. Now, by all means, if you have the money to dump into leads and then and that's working for you. I did that for a few years too. I get it. No problem. But if you hear these stories about people selling 100, 200, 500 plans a year and they don't buy leads, you're listening to the right video. These are the types of things we do to establish consistency and credibility in a region. Now, you not only have the public persona of, man, I've seen Kenny's stuff everywhere over time, but you also develop relationships with the carrier reps. They want to push your stuff, right, JB? Like, did you have agents when you were a sales director that you were like, I can count on them. I'm pushing their crap to the top. I'm pushing business to them because I know they're going to perform, they're consistent, and they show up. Was that a
100%.
thing?
And I'll take it one step further. I'll tell you, of the top 10 agents in DFW, there is not one single agent in the top 10 that takes leads. They don't. They don't operate within leads, because the problem is with leads is it requires you to ask for another lead and another lead. Like you're not self-sufficient. It's not a sustainable business. It may be a great way to get started. I'm not going to shoot that down. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I'm not going to tell you that's not the right or wrong way to think. But if you're in this business for long term, the top 10 agents in DFW do not take leads. They refuse to do it. It's not sustainable business.
Can I touch on one other thing, Kenny? You were just saying before, you need a business plan. Every one of the agents I talk to, they're business owners, right? Yeah, we might be their upline or their partner coaching them, but you need a business plan. The business plan, usually you need a yearly one, but now the business plan starts now. It's pre-season right now, I always call it. And you got to be ready, get all your pieces in place for when the big game starts on October 15th. Have a plan. It's got to be set. Get your meetings going. Sit down with your upline if your upline's available to you. This is where an upline, Ken, you asked earlier, this is where an upline becomes so important. If it's not just monies that CMS is going to stop us from doing, you better have somebody to help you strategize and have a plan in place for your success.
100%.
Hey, we'll help you with that. Like, I mean, that's a lot to digest, to understand this industry and the strategy that goes behind it. That's a ton to work with. I mean, just think about community meetings. Like, some of you are probably like, where do I start? Like, how do I do this, JB? Like, what does that look like? Do I call somebody? Do I pick up, I don't think they have yellow pages anymore, but do I Google? Like, what does it do? I can tell you, it's real simple. I mean, you know your community just as well as anybody else. You know your hot spots, your breakfast spots, your lunch spots. Go there and eat. You're looking for a certain clientele. You're looking for seniors. They're not hard to spot. Okay, so just go find a restaurant that has a senior population, a heavy dose of seniors that are attending that location, and make sure it has a private room. That's pretty much the extent of it. And as long as the manager agrees you can hold meetings there, you've got you a spot. That's what you need. It's pretty simple from that standpoint.
I'll do you one better. Just call JB and have a conversation with him if you're serious, only if you're serious about committing to doing some events this AEP. There you go. I mean, that's what the value that these guys provide.
Appreciate that.
That's the value that these guys provide. So take use of it. Hey, listen, I'm going to wrap this video up. We could talk forever. I'd love to do a video, even if it's just me and you, JB, soon. So if you're still watching the video, hear this out, of a short, literally 6 or 8 minutes, where we explain to people, I want to hear you help me explain to people what kind of the difference between formal and informal meetings are. Just a quick breakdown of what those look like, a short video, so that if somebody searches on YouTube, how do I do these sales meetings? I want them to find this video and it directly answer their question. Does that make sense? That's something
great idea, Kenny. That'd be a great segment.
All right, guys. Hey, any final closing words here? I appreciate everybody watching.
Thanks for time.
Always great, Kenny. Great job, commentary, and it's just fun, man. I enjoy this. Just, love it. Sitting in Nashville today doing recruiting meetings, and just an honor and privilege, man. Appreciate your time.
Love having you on. Love what you bring, Jake.
Thanks a lot, Kenny. I appreciate you, buddy. Good information. I love what you put out there.
All right. See you guys.